Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we'll be discussing what specific champions may come to Teamfight Tactics in the near future. We have a solid hint from Riot Meddler in which he states that they have plans to get champions from various regions that present Shurima, Piltover, and Zaun. So today what we'll be doing is looking at the various champions from those backgrounds and maybe even discussing what ability that their primary one would be, just kind of for fun in TFT. And if you guys do enjoy this video, then please feel free to hit the like button and let's get straight into it. Okay, so starting off with Shurima champions, we have quite a few, 9 to be exact. This includes Azir, Xerath, Gnosis, Renekton, Sivir, Skarner, Amumu, Rammus, and Taliyah. None of which are currently in the game, which makes Teamfight Tactics totally Shurima-less, at the current moment at least. So all 9 of these are contenders to be added into the TFT pool, however I wonder what each one will have. I mean, we can speculate, but of course we honestly have no idea, but that won't stop me from guessing. Now, as a bonus for Shurima champions, they might add something called, let's say, Ascendant as a new origin that maybe gives something like a unit bonus damage. It could literally be anything, but Ascendant is a good name for something like Xerath to be Ascendant plus Sorcerer, Azir to be Ascendant plus Elementalist, and maybe Gnosis to be Ascendant plus Knight. But anyways, let's discuss maybe what their abilities will be. I know we could discuss their classes, what maybe they'll add to the game, how they'll change the meta, but if I wanted to do that for every single champion, this video would literally be half an hour long. So instead, let's just throw in an ability and have a little bit more fun. I think Azir will personally maybe use his ultimate. It makes the most sense considering even in the base league he's a utility champion. Giving him his ultimate would work out extremely well and it'd be extremely badass to see. Unless they want to do some crazy stuff and let him spawn his turret as his passive, but unfortunately something like that is highly unlikely. Xerath will most likely have his standard Q. I don't think he'll just throw out a stun over and over again. However, they may give him his Eye of Destruction, but his Q fits pretty well, so I'd go to bet that that's what Xerath will have. Renekton would most likely just have his spin attack, as nothing else makes too much sense unless they give him his ultimate and push him to be a tank, but I doubt that as well. Sivir would most likely also use her Q. They may give her Ricochet, but her Q seems more fitting. I doubt they'd give her shield on its own. Something that could be cool though is if she was given her ultimate and it acts as a team-wide buff for each fight. That fits her character super well and I could definitely see that. Skarner, well, I'm just gonna say his ultimate, it makes the most sense to me. Amumu, definitely his Q or ultimate, depending. It'll be one or the other, but his ultimate is so strong it might straight up be overpowered in the game, but obviously Riot adjusts each ability in fair ways to fit Teamfight Tactics. For Rammus, I'd hope they allow him to roll around. I mean, I pray that when they add Rammus to Teamfight Tactics, he's just rolling around. They might give him his taunt, but I really want him to roll around, so I'm just going to say he's going to roll around. Taliyah will definitely have her Q, as the rest of her abilities are kind of combo based, and her ultimate just doesn't fit Teamfight Tactics. I couldn't see a big wall randomly being placed in Teamfight Tactics. From there we can look at Zaun champions, which is even more than the previous as there's a whopping 12 possibilities. But of course right before that, they're also going to need a class. Something like an alchemist class that will allow a lot of these new champions to fall under. For example, let's say someone like Twitch could be a ranger plus alchemist, Singe could be a brawler plus alchemist, and someone like Urgot could be a demon plus alchemist. So a lot of possibilities there. But anyways, like I said, a whopping 12 champions. These include Jinx, Echo, Twitch, Blitzcrank, Dr. Mundo, Janna, Singed, Urgot, Victor, Warwick, Zac, and Ziggs. Right now, Blitz and Warwick are already in the game, but the rest are all up for potential near future contenders. So similar to what we just did, let's try and guess what abilities Riot will decide is best fitting for them in TFT. Now, before you go down and comment, I know that Jinx is already in the game, at least she should be by the time you're watching this. When I wrote this script originally, Jinx was nowhere to be seen. She was on the list as a contender, we didn't know if she was coming yet. But then there was the announcement of her on the PBE, which is where she is right now. By the time you're watching this, I'm sure she's on the live servers. However, this kind of goes to show that these predictions can really truly come true, since Jinx was one of them and now she's on the live game. But anyways, the rest are still future contenders, and while they may not add another Zaun champion soon because of Jinx, they will all eventually come, so let's look over them anyways. So let's start off with Echo. I hope to see his ultimate because of how impactful and damn cool it is, but I can very easily see every single one of his abilities be added, maybe except his E. I don't see him just dashing, but his stun or his Q could work out really well, and he'd probably be an assassin plus exile. Twitch is an interesting one. Personally, I think the most fitting one would simply be his ultimate to hit multiple targets. Everything else seems a little bit useless in TFT. Dr. Mundo will most likely throw his cleaver over and over and over again, just like he does on Summoner's Rift. I think Janna has the chance of getting her ultimate, but her Q is what I believe will end up being added. She'll also probably be an Elementalist plus Noble. Singed is a very tricky one. I really want him to go up to other units on the board and completely flip them over his head. Like, I want him to just grab them, flip them over his head, and it would be super interesting if they allowed him to consistently have poison on, but it seems kind of tricky, so I don't know what they're going to do for Singed, but I have my fingers crossed that he's going to be flipping people over his head. For Urgot, I could see his ultimate, but I believe his Q or E is what will be added. His E actually makes sense, since he's most likely going to be added as a tank, and then he'll attack and shoot using his echoing flames. Victor is another situation where basically all his abilities could be added. It works perfectly fine. Usually each champion's Q is what's favored, but it's obviously dependent. I mean, it'll really depend on what class or type of unit Riot wants Victor to become. Zac better have his ultimate, but his Q is obviously possible. As for Ziggs, I think he'll be getting his bouncing bombs, or his ultimate if we're really lucky. I want to see his ultimate, but, you know, Riot favors the almighty Q ability in TFT. The last and smallest pool of champions, however, is from Piltover. So we're done with Zaun. Let's look at Piltover, as there's only 7, including Camille, Caitlyn, Ezreal, Jace, Orianna, Vi, and Heimerdinger. None of which were currently in the game, but the PBE came and kind of slapped this script in the face, because Jace and Vi, as well as Camille, I believe, are now on the PBE, so, you know. So with Camille, Jace, and Vi out of the script, we now actually only have Caitlyn, Ezreal, and Orianna left, as well as Heimerdinger. Those ones are currently not in the game, and we can look over those abilities particularly. Now, let's start off with Ezreal. He could have his ultimate, but I have a very strong feeling that won't be the case. His Q, W, and E are all pretty solid contenders though. Jace we already have. Orianna should get her ultimate. Of course, that may not be the case, as her Q could work, but it seems a little bit underwhelming without the rest of her kit. So her ultimate makes perfect sense to me. Maybe the ball will just fly out in the enemy's direction and just ult. That would be super badass. I really hope that happens. Last but certainly not least, we have easily the most trickiest one to predict, and that would be Heimerdinger. I have no idea what they'll do to him, but I mean, maybe he could just throw out his small stun, but that's a little bit underwhelming. But then to put down his turrets doesn't make too much sense. It doesn't really fit TFT. However, Riot does say that they want to make radical mechanical changes to the game, so maybe he will place down his turrets. I'm not too sure. Now, what I would like to see, but is very unlikely, is an ultimate that is randomized, in which he might randomly put down an ulted turret, throw a bunch of rockets, or maybe an insane stun. It would make him a very powerful unit, and it plays into, you know, TFT's RNG based gameplay, but I mean, let's be honest, it would be super interesting to see. Anyways, after looking at all that, we kind of, since when I first wrote the script, none of the original champions were in the game, but after this patch, while it kind of sucks because it slapped the script in the face, we did get some valuable information in which I'm telling you guys the next patch that they decide to add champions will be from Shurima. Actually, I bet you that one of the next champions will be Azir. Just calling it, it's my future prediction, let's see if I'm right. Anyhow, that's all the possible upcoming champions that are most likely going to be added within TFT. Of course, anything can change, but I definitely love to see most of these be added into the game regardless. Now, keep in mind that abilities are a very, very small part of the character. Their class, playstyle, etc. are really what truly determines if they're useful or not, but that would be a long video, and that'd go into meta changes, etc, etc. Didn't want to turn this video into an hour long, so a little bit more lighthearted and fun, decided against that route. But even with all that being said, I do hope you guys genuinely enjoyed the video. If you did, then consider hitting that like button and maybe even subscribe for some more TFT content in the future. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.